you have to forgive me a little bit because I don't have COVID. I'm actually shy to meet a lot of people. Basically I'm basically shaking inside right now. But I guess the nature of the job that I took, which is being within the startup ecosystem, is kind of forcing me to be always in the middle, trying to talk to people. So forgive me if sometimes you will hear a little bit of like trembling, but it doesn't mean that I don't know it. It's just that my brain is telling me, where's the exit? Where's the exit? Anyway, I've been in Taiwan for like 15 years. So this is just a quick slide about me. So I've been in Taiwan for actually 14 years, sorry. 14 years in Taiwan. I came here to do my MBA from the National Taiwan University. But before that, I was a journalist back in the Philippines. I'm originally from the Philippines, by the way. I was covering the central bank for news reports. My last job in the Philippines was as a journalist, and I was an editor for the Financial Times. So if you guys are familiar with that newspaper, I think it has a little bit of higher quality. So coming here in Taiwan, I tried to like shift gears from becoming a journalist into becoming a digital marketer. So I felt like I needed a new environment, and Taiwan I felt was a good place for me to start. But like, another quick background is that back in the days, this was in 2008. I'm that old. China is a big thing. Like when people are actually talking about where's the next destination, if you're a foreigner, then they would always say China. But I felt like it's so like culturally different for me, like difficult for me to go directly to China because number one, I didn't speak the language. My Chinese was zero basically. So I looked for places wherein I thought I would jump to China from. And I thought Taiwan is the best place for that. But when I came here for my MBA, it's basically just magic happens. Somehow Taiwan has that magnet to keep foreigners staying here. And for some reason, 14 years down the line, I've switched careers from becoming a journalist into a digital marketer. So I've also written books, not just in the Philippines, but also here in Taiwan. And I guess that's the reason why they picked me to talk to you. And what I wanted to bring to you guys is a different point of view of what Taiwan is based on how I talk to them, how they relate the information to me. Because I'm sure when you guys did your Google search, Taiwan is the best place in the world, the safest. I would say the same thing, but you would want to also know if you want to live here for 14 years or longer, you would also want to know the realities or what are the real foreigners' insights about living here in Taiwan. So I guess this is just some sort of like to balance what you can search on the internet and based on what foreigners are saying how life is here in Taiwan. So I'm sure you've been bombarded by so many information about why Taiwan. So number one, the economy of Taiwan is basically on a par with top economies. And if you look at the GDP per capita of Taiwan, which is really interesting, it's a small population, less than 13 million, but the per capita income is actually 59,000. So you can imagine that. So I'm sure in the US, the average salary is not even 59,000 per year. But here in Taiwan, that's actually the per capita income. And not many people know, but Taiwan is also a place wherein it has one of the most number of high net worth individuals. When we say high net worth individuals, these are people who are worth at least 13 million US dollars. So I think the latest count they have is around 1,000 people. So there are probably those who live closer to Taipei 101. If you see that building right there that swirls, that's the most expensive place to live in right now. You wouldn't get a place there for like 2 million US dollars. That's probably just the bathroom of someone there. And most of the time, these people are like really like high net worth individuals, but you wouldn't know them because one of the things about Taiwanese people is that they rarely flaunt their wealth. So they may live in beautiful places, but around the streets you would quickly identify them as carrying expensive bags or shoes. You would see them like in normal clothes, but behind them is actually a lot of money that they have. So what this actually tells us is that if you are starting a business in Taiwan, it's really nice if you could actually find your friends around here, and who knows, they may actually be the ones who would actually help you build your startup from the capital point of view. So we mentioned this best place for expats. So I've overheard from Yo that you've been here for a month already, or you will be here for a month. You will be here for a month. So one of the things that you will notice here is that even though you walk outside the streets of Taiwan, let's say 3 a.m., you're hungry, you want to go to 7-Eleven, nobody cares about you. Nobody, like you can fling your phone like that, no one will just rush. And I'm from the Philippines, by the way. We're in the number one rule is backpack is not supposed to be on the back. Backpack is in front. And when you hold the phone, you don't hold your phone like this. Like even when you're looking for a signal back in the Philippines, you can't just do this because it's just gonna be your hand 5 minutes later. You're always closer to yourself. But in Taiwan, you will be amazed that you can actually reserve seats with your phone. In Singapore, anyone from Singapore here? Okay, so in Singapore, they use tissue to actually reserve a seat in restaurants. So when you see a tissue, that was my biggest mistake. I went there, I saw a tissue, I removed it because I thought it's gross, I don't want to sit there. But actually, that's the way they reserve seat. But in Taiwan, you can actually leave your phone to reserve a seat, and nobody will actually pick it up because that's how they think it's supposed to be. Like it's super safe, and but it actually is. You can also think about it as the security measures that they have here in Taiwan. For example, I have lost my wallet in numerous times, and in those, I think out of 4 times, I retrieved my wallet 3 times, and the only time I was not able to retrieve my wallet back was that wallet did not have any contact information, so that the police could actually return it to me. So going back to the security stuff, when you lose, for example, your wallet, you can actually go to the nearest station where you last remember you were holding that wallet, and they would actually put up like cameras and say, "Oh, is this the cab with you? Do you remember what time you left the cab?" And if you say that, they can actually trace the cab and call the cab and say, "Hey, somebody left the wallet and stuff." So security purposes, Taiwan is also big on that as well. And then it traces back, and then if you go back to people leaving their laptops, their phones, so it becomes a safer place for many to actually live here because they know that they couldn't just do any. This is just one island anyway, so the only way for you to escape is basically swim to the Philippines, which is 2.5 hours away from here. I'm not sure how many hours if you're going to swim. And also the best quality of life. I'm anyone from Germany here? No one? Oh, from Germany. And please correct me if I'm wrong. I have a lot of friends who were complaining about internet connection in Germany, and to me when I hear Germany, I was like, that's the place I actually want to go because of like how they do businesses in Germany as well. But if you compare the internet connections here in Taiwan, you can even get like if you don't have data, you can just access it from the public. Like you can actually like launch your internet settings and access those free internet services by the Taipei government or by the local bus companies, and you can actually get your internet. and so that's how the internet infrastructure here in Taiwan is, which is related to if you need information, you can actually get it faster here in Taiwan.
Actually, I can complain about internet speed.
Yes, please.
The internet is quite slow for me. Like I come from Lithuania.
From Lithuania.
Yeah, and
welcome to Taiwan.
And we are kind of used to really fast. So maybe I have a wrong plan, but for me, loading times. I mean, I can feel that it's slower. So.
And I wouldn't contest that because it's from first person point of view. If you go to the Philippines, it's either you don't have a phone or you don't have internet. And internet is becoming like a news in the Philippines. Like, oh, we have faster internet speed. It makes it in the news basically if you have fast internet. Whereas here it's like, oh, we don't have internet. Wait 5 minutes or something like that, and you get it. And I'm sure in Lithuania, well, based on your experience, if it's much better, hopefully, hopefully someone from the Taiwan government could hear that and improve further the infrastructure here. Hopefully, yes. Also, Taiwan is also I already mentioned about the internet infrastructure, technology infrastructure, and one of the reasons why you also want to build your startup here is because this is some sort of like a tech hub in Asia. I'm sure you guys, anyone holding an Asus laptop or an HTC phone or an Acer or an iPhone, anyone who's holding an iPhone? iPhone is actually made here in Taiwan. So it's a tech hub, so it's an opportunity for you to actually be part of the whole like tech ecosystem. And the good thing is that you get to know it before the world gets to know it because you're closer to the source of information here in Taiwan. That's me actually, by the way. I used to work for Asus, doing the digital marketing for Asus smartphone for Southeast Asia. Oh, that's a long time ago. And it's also a source of amazing talents. Do you know that apart from the US, Taiwan actually has the largest number of talent pool of Google. They built their engineering infrastructure close to where I live in Xindian. So they built the whole engineering infrastructure there. And they're opening jobs, by the way. But I know you're here to start businesses. Start business first. And the reason why Google, big tech companies such as Google would think that they would want to source out talent pool here is that if you look at the number of universities that are on the highest ranking worldwide in different categories, either in engineering or in medicine or something else, lacking shaking. You will see that Taiwan actually has a lot of like good schools that are top ranked. And this is the reason why maybe Google and some other big companies are setting up companies here to tap that engineering pool talent. Sir from Lithuania, what's your name? Jacob. So if you have questions just like Jacob, or if you want to challenge whatever I say here, I guess the best way to learn is for us, I'm an educator by heart, so the best way for us to learn is really by interacting. So if you feel like there is something we need to correct or you have questions, please feel free to ask me questions or raise it in the floor. So let's talk about Taiwan trends. So since 2016 and before the COVID-19, you actually see a good number of foreigners who are coming into Taiwan, specifically for the purpose of starting companies. And I guess that's a result, I guess that is a result of combined efforts by the government and private sector, who are doing their best to promote Taiwan and to say, hey, look at Taiwan. Taiwan is actually trying to do something, and maybe you want to start businesses here. So you can actually see some trend in foreigners coming here before COVID-19, specifically for the purpose of starting companies. And one of the things that the government is doing is trying to relax some of the tax policies for starting companies. So if you are, let's say, an investor or a startup company in AI, IoT, AR, VR, or biomedical industry, you can actually apply for relaxation of your taxes so that whenever you realize your earnings, at least it could still help you push your companies further. I'll talk about the relaxation of visa rules for startup founders later. But yeah, that's also part of what the government is trying to do. You can imagine when I first came here to Taiwan, after graduating from NTU, um, they weren't so well. The policies were not so welcome to foreigners that I had to leave Taiwan within 15 days after graduation from the top university in Taiwan. So they were telling me that, oh, if you don't get a job within 15 days, if you don't have a job offer or a pending application for work permit, then you will need to exit Taiwan and re-enter again as a tourist or for whatever other purposes. But now they relaxed the rules. They started from allowing foreigners to stay up to 1 year after graduation for the purpose of seeking a job, or if you are starting companies, you can actually apply from abroad coming to Taiwan and say, hey, I want to start a company in Taiwan. Maybe I should apply for an entrepreneur visa, and then they will process it from outside. Then you can come to Taiwan and do just that. And then there's also a lot of grants and subsidies. That is, if you want to start a company here in Taiwan, I'm sure one of the biggest problems of anyone is capital, right? So the government has also set up these facilities that you could also access funding if you want to start companies. So let's talk about one of the visas that you could actually have, and it's called the Taiwan Gold Card. I think this is the most famous for now, for the reason that the government is pushing hard on people to get Taiwan Gold Card. Their requirements for that is a little bit strict. You have to be like an expert in your field. So let's say you're an engineer or a biotech. You need to be some sort of like an expert in that field. So in your application, you will have to prove that you are actually an expert in that field. So you can do that by saying or by indicating that you have a PhD specifically on that topic of expertise, or you work for the biggest companies in that specific sector, holding a top position with a specific earnings. You could actually apply for that without getting a sponsorship. So most of the time, people would want to come to Taiwan and be sponsored by a company to work here. But if you hold a gold card, you can actually work for companies without needing a sponsorship by a company. So that's the QR code if you guys have any questions around it. So basically, you're free, like it's a 1 to 3 year stay in Taiwan, just for the purpose of either looking for a job if you want to look for a job or starting your company. And if your purpose is looking for a job or working on your own, you don't actually need a work permit for that because Gold Card covers that. And then you have the Alien Permanent Residency certificate. This is basically what I am holding as a professional here in Taiwan. So APRC is almost like a forever grant for you to stay and live in Taiwan, almost like almost like a Taiwanese, but without the right to vote. So you get access to the pension, so you become part of the pension scheme wherein your salary, part of your salary is deducted for that, and so you also, like when you retire, you could actually access those funds. It allows you basically to start your own company and also work for companies without needing a sponsorship or work permits. So let's talk about some opportunities for foreign startups. So I mentioned earlier that government actually provides grants, and we're actually in Linko, which is New Taipei City, but this is very specific to businesses that are registered in Taipei City. And while this is for Taipei City, New Taipei City also has the same grant system of up to 1 million for those who are just starting their companies. So basically, it's a no commitment money. So basically, when they give that 1 million to you, it's up for you to just spend it. They don't own any shares of your company, but you go through a process. Basically, you apply for that, you do a presentation, they try to see whether you fall onto the needs that they have. For example, for example, if you want, one of their requirements is that if your company has a potential to provide jobs for local Taiwanese, then you will have like plus points in getting the grant of 1 million. And then if you are in a stage wherein you're doing R&D specifically for highly technical startup, you can actually get up to 5 million NT in grants. So it covers for salary, research of your employees, and for equipment. So this research and development grant is something that you can access even if you're from even if you're a business from New Taipei City or in Taipei. So as long as your company is registered in Taiwan and you are doing a research and development, you could actually access the funding from the government. So I think E3 is one of the touch points that you can actually start researching about that, because part of what E3 is doing is also looking for like promising startups that they could actually pitch into some of their departments who may have the actual connection for you to actually build your startup. So, but specifically, if you need like grants up to like 10 million for your R&D, you could also start researching from the E3 website. Prototyping lab. So this is what I was mentioning about what E3 is providing. So some people would actually want to see like a prototype of what you are building. And the common misconception is that you would have to come to Taiwan to build your prototype. But actually you can do that remotely. Let's say you're from Germany or Lithuania or from where are you from? India. Or you're from India, you can actually access the prototyping facilities of the government, specifically from E3. And they do not charge extra money apart from the cost of the raw materials that they have. It is so high quality that those people who are working for your prototype are actually engineers, PhDs in research labs who will actually do as you requested them to do. And the other good part is that even before they start building whatever you want them to build, they will sign a non-disclosure agreement that they cannot reveal information about what you tell them, and they will also, and that paper is also something you can hold on to, and for them to say that we don't own any IP related to whatever you will disclose to us. So right before they start, right even before you begin telling them what you're building, they will sign that for you that they don't own whatever you're saying, whatever you're going to reveal to them, and that they will not take part in the acquisition of that unless you actually request it for help. So yeah, that's what I was blabbing about the last part. And so we can also talk about the accelerators. So basically, these are like the community in which you want to talk to in terms of, hey, I actually need help with building something, or basic stuff like, oh, I'm in Linko, how do I get around here? Even these accelerators can actually help you. So we have ones from the government and ones from the private sector. And one good indicator is that we now have Techstars. Are you guys familiar with Techstars? And 500. I think I think they used to be 500 global, and now they rebranded to global. So these are Silicon Valley based accelerators that you could actually tap because they have offices here in Taiwan. I'm not sure where Techstar. I think Techstars moved to the Linko area. So if you guys are staying there, maybe you can also research for that. Oh, but we are in TACC. That's fine. There are two logos. TACC, the sponsor of today's event. So you can also ask them about any concerns that you may have in building your startup, and that's the reason why you're here. Basically, is to basically have like some sort of a hub where you can do your research and stuff. So I guess part of what you need to know is not just the facilities, not just the overall economic conditions of Taiwan, but also what foreigners here are saying. And so, apart from, anyway, let me talk about this. So, in terms of the distribution of workers here in Taiwan, you'll be surprised that it's not actually people from the U.S. who comprise most of the white collar jobs here. It's actually mostly Canadian, British, and Filipino. So we have Canadian here? No, no Canadian, no, sorry, or anyone from the UK? Okay, no one from the UK. From Malaysia? No, no one from Malaysia. Japan? No one from Japan. Okay, I haven't surveyed the whole space. Sir, where are you from? From Taiwan. Okay. Excuse me, where are you from?
From Thailand.
From Thailand. Oh, okay. Yes, we are not in the graph, but yes. Southeast Asia. What I'm saying is that if you combine Philippines, Malaysia, it's actually Southeast Asians. Malaysia is Southeast Asia. Southeast Asians who are mostly comprising the white collar job profile here in Taiwan. So these are basic interviews that I've done for my YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and look for Startup in Taiwan, I'm actually trying to profile or talk about the lives of foreigners here. And this is one of the guys I interviewed. And he actually founded one of the group called Taiwan Impact Entrepreneurs. And basically it's some sort of informal group wherein they share their ideas and thoughts about starting companies here in Taiwan. And one of the key points that he mentioned that is some sort of a lesson for many foreigners is that when you come to Taiwan, you should also do your research and make sure that you know the pros and cons of coming here, not just for starting your own company, but also setting your expectation. Because one of the key points is that people here come with an idea that this is just going to be all successful. So I guess it's mostly part of what you research and making sure that your expectations are correct. This is from a point of view of a Taiwanese who works with a startup who is a startup that is comprised not mostly of foreigners and locals. So for her, she feels like this is it has to be welcoming, right? The feeling that she has is welcoming more foreigners because it also helps Taiwanese to be competitive on a global scale. So she can provide some local insights about the local culture here in Taiwan, but in exchange, she also will get some insights on how foreigners or how people from abroad work, basically, and she will gain competitiveness if she wants to live abroad and work abroad. This is a guy who is a founder of a Chinese learning app. He's actually a UPenn graduate, but he came here to study Chinese so that he would be able to teach Chinese to foreigners, specifically to foreign professionals. And he couldn't. He wanted to highlight that it's really important that we learn about the Chinese language because doing so actually shows that we are very much interested in living here and in working together smoothly with the Taiwanese environment.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
As for a foreigner, is it important for you to learn how to read and write, or is it enough to learn how to speak?
Depends on the function that you'll be doing. For the time, how long have I been working? For my working career here in Taiwan, I survived without writing and reading, but only speaking. And that's because I was hired specifically to help with the marketing outside Taiwan. But if your job entails basically working with the Taiwan market, it would be assumed that you should be knowledgeable in the language. But I'll pull it back again. If you're hired as a foreigner, then they must be hiring you for you being a foreigner, helping them to serve the markets where you're originally from. Let's say the language that you're from.
I was asking more from the perspective, quality of life, rather than probably you will work anyway in English. Your working language will be probably English, but let's say you stay here longer, you want to have better quality of life and understand more.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Better quality of it will really improve your quality of life if you're able to at least read and write Chinese. But if if locals actually sense that you're speaking in Chinese, they would appreciate that. And in fact, Taiwanese are known to be super friendly people. First time I came here to Taiwan, I was lost, and instead of just pointing me to the direction that I should be going, they actually walked with me. They're like, let's walk. And it was like a 10-15 minutes walk to where I was going. And my broken Chinese also helped me. They were like, oh, wow, you're speaking in Chinese. So welcome to Taiwan. And then they talked to me in Chinese. And then going back to what you're saying about improving the quality of your life, for sure, that will be very helpful. Specifically, let's say you have a medical emergency, God forbid, but if you need something, let's say even tooth extraction. But even then, if you're going into that high level of like interaction, let's say medical emergency, a lot of Taiwanese, many of almost 19, I would say 99% of the doctors in Taiwan are actually educated abroad. Even the dentists here are also educated abroad. But if you're also talking about just going to 7-Eleven and buying coffee and stuff, it would help if you actually speak Chinese, and they appreciate it much. Because their brains are saying, oh, this person is doing his best to actually be part of the whole ecosystem. So I would help him. Any Taiwanese sir who would say that?
I think I would agree that the majority of people do understand English. English, I think, is essential. You only speak German or other language, then most of you can speak English, most people understand.
But you know what's fun? So speaking English in Taipei, New Taipei, not a problem. But if you want to enjoy places in Taiwan where foreigners haven't seen but locals have seen and actually really amazing, you would want to learn Taiwanese, because when you get to that destination, people actually rarely speak in Chinese. But they would still help you, but they rarely speak English. They only speak Chinese, but they would still help you basically. So yeah, if you want to enjoy those places, then learning the local language in of the city is actually really good. So this talks about culture. Basically, it's saying that, and this is also a lesson for Taiwanese people as well, that when we try to be open to other people's culture, it's not just one way. I'm sure they're also doing their best to learn about the culture of the world. Hence, we have the government trying to come up with programs like what you are in right now to really know what your concerns are and to really know what you have in terms of doing business and how it could help Taiwan in general be known in the whole Asia as the Silicon Valley of Asia. Um, so just a quick background, before the government is trying to make Taiwan the Silicon Valley of Asia, but they realized that it could be very difficult knowing that Silicon Valley is like up there and it's a hub of super intelligent, super smart people. Anything you produce out of Silicon Valley, not anything. Most of those things actually go viral, actually are being used or touching people's lives. They switched the position into being a hub of a tech hub of Asia because of the strength that they have, which is, as I mentioned earlier, this is home to the biggest tech companies, as well as a good pool of talents, which you guys could actually access. I'm sure down the line, people are also thinking, maybe I should also look for a job while starting a company. And this headhunter from Ireland, who's also been living here in Taiwan, has that idea that you also need to do just like when you do your homework for starting a company in Taiwan, you should also do your homework for looking for jobs. It's beyond just submitting your resume and expecting that they would call you. You should also show to them that you've actually done your research about Taiwan in general and the market that they are trying to serve. All right, so those are the interviews as related to the YouTube channel. But if you actually access my book, I've interviewed around maybe around, but because I keep on adding information into the book, interviewing people, putting it on the book. So maybe by now it's like almost 200 resource people who are interviewed for that book. And so these are just some of the highlights of what that book is all about and some of the key findings. So that book is basically envisioned to be a Wikipedia for starting a business in Taiwan. It's also a directory of service providers with exclusive offers for locals, for foreign startups. So we launched it in September 2021, and so far this is actually no longer a correct figure. We have around 300 members in that website, and 16 partner agencies, which means these are agencies who provide discounts to some of their services. For example, maybe after TACC, you will need a new office space somewhere in Taipei. We have listings of co-working spaces in here. Or maybe you will need help of accountants, so you can actually go here and search for the accountant who will provide you the best quote for whatever you need. And so far, and this is no longer correct as well, the estimated savings made by people who use our website is around 9,000 US dollars in total. So that website actually started from the book that I mentioned in my first slide. Are you guys familiar with Audrey Tang, the Taiwan minister? She actually read the book, so even before I released it to the public, I had her review and talk to her about the book that I'm building, and she found that the book is actually very insightful and helps her with some proposals on how to improve the whole startup ecosystem here in Taiwan. So that's a quote from her. And now I'm just gonna go not deep dive, like a surface touching on what are some of the findings that we mentioned in the book. So number one is that agencies need to catch with the rising demand. So earlier I showed you there's a graph where there's a rise in the number of foreigners who are coming to Taiwan who wants to start a business in Taiwan. But one of the key challenges is that when you go to, let's say you're not part of TACC or you're not part of any accelerator and you just want to have a service from an accountant, most of the time you will scratch your head because sometimes they will tell you, oh, we're not familiar with that loss yet. And this guy who we interviewed from Fast Start, so if you're listing him as um, for his service, please mention my name, so at least he knows that I'm useful for this for him. So he was saying that because of this rapid rise of foreigners, agencies in Taiwan also need to catch up in knowing the rules and regulations so that they could help them speed up the process for them. Because what slows the process is the back and forth of the requirements because I didn't know it was needed or I didn't read the laws carefully or actually belong to a different category. So he was urging his fellow Taiwanese accountants to basically read up on the laws so that they could actually help foreigners here. So the next challenge is guanxi. Has anyone, since you came here, has anyone mentioned to you about guanxi? Basically, this is a powerful word that you need to develop in Taiwan, which is basically building a close relationship. It's basically like having a friend in. So earlier I mentioned about the high per capita income of Taiwan, which is around 59,000 US dollars, which translates into if you have a friend that you need capital, this person will help you. But even before you can access the funding from any Taiwanese you may be sitting with them, rich people or even rich people, you actually need to build a good relationship with them. And that's why proof of guanxi. So basically, what they would do if you actually build a guanxi, like when they trust you, really trust you, that you're a trustworthy person, that you're close friends, not only will they open their pockets, if they don't have money, they will open their resources and say, hey, I actually know someone who could help you. But the challenge is this is not easy to make. So it's not 1 year, it's not 3 months. It's some sort of like a relationship that you meet and then for some reason you will feel it that I have a punchy with this person because he basically is just opening up without me asking for it because he can feel like, maybe you need something. Let me bring you to another group that I have. It's challenging, is what the slide is saying. Alright, so this one talks about what a venture capitalist is talking about. So most of the time when foreigners are asking the help of venture capitalists here in Taiwan, one of their first questions is, who is your target market? And when you say that your target market is actually not Taiwan, that's a red flag for them. Because they feel like, so what's the point of coming to Taiwan? So for them, the easiest way for them to move you further into their next interview round is if you're actually targeting the Taiwan market. And that's quite logical because you're in Taiwan anyway. Maybe you want, just like what I was thinking when I first came to Taiwan, maybe in the future you want to target China because that's a larger market for Chinese speaking, but you want to test it to a more mature market but smaller country in terms of population, then Taiwan it is. So venture capitalists would at least put you will separate you from the rest of the applicants if they know that you are targeting the Taiwan market firstly before another market. Simply because if you're here in China.
Ask a question?
Yes, please.
Regarding this targeting Chinese market, mainland China, right? As a foreigner, it's quite tricky to understand foreign relations in business-wise, right? We have political relations, but like in business-wise, how common is to do for Taiwanese companies business in China and how tricky it is to do and vice versa.
That's so tricky because it's. I think it's tricky because of political reasons. So the rules change from some other sides. And Camera's rolling. I love China. I think it's tricky just because of just to sum what I wanted to say is that it's tricky because of the political situation, but people-wise, of course, the language is the same. They can actually tell the different culture intuitions. Like, oh, you can't say 小姐 in the mainland, it has a different connotation. Like here, if you're referring to a lady and say, hey, 小姐, or I'm sorry. But in China, you can't say 小姐 because it has a different meaning. It's like calling someone in the red light district as 小姐. So these are small things that Taiwanese people understand and Chinese people understand, or the different ways you call Taiwan, or you refer to Taiwan when you're in China, and how you refer China when you're in Taiwan. They understand it. I mean, people-wise, the culture is almost, I would say, homogeneous because of the language, but what makes it complicated is just the political situation.
But it happens, right?
It happens,
strong business.
It does.
There.
Correct. And one of the difficulties is the flow of funds. So, because, and this is in the news, by the way, and this is also coming from a lot of political analysts, is that Taiwan is trying to some sort of quote-unquote control the flow of funds coming from China, because if more funds coming from China would control bigger companies here, then you know what's going to happen, potentially. And so, because of this, like not straight line policies, or not clear policies, the flow of funds is quite harder coming to Taiwan, because Taiwan needs to verify where the funds are coming from. So you would notice that. I think one of the other slides that I would say is that the difficulties in Taiwan would be banking, and that comes from that some sort of political situation. Okay, next slide. Alright, so this is what I was saying about streamlining the banking system. So if you're from abroad, I'm sure you swipe your card, it's easy. If you're no Singaporean, right? If you're in Singapore and let's say you raise a seed round, you get your money same day. You can it's like okay, send money to you. Let's say I'm Hong Kong VC who just happened to go to Singapore because I want to watch a startup competition. You will get the money right away. But if you are actually raising funds in Taiwan, it would go through so much process because of that political situation. They want to make sure that they know where money is coming from. So the banking system has been affected by that because they would do a lot of paper checks, basically. They would require you a lot of documents to prove how this money was acquired and who is the original source of that funding. And it's a huge obstacle because, sir, I didn't get your name. Anton.
Yeah.
So Anton was talking about, actually it was you, who was talking about lifestyle, it was also you, in general, living in Taiwan in general. So living in Taiwan in general will be challenging if banking is not streamlined. For example, if I need extra funds and I have to get it from Germany, then it would take days before it comes to me. I should have brought money when I came here, but there's also a limit on how much cash you can bring in when you cross the Taiwan borders.
TACC Plus.